future. I am very optimistic about the future of Nigerian agriculture. Simple example is this gentleman here, Samaila. So, Samaila is a young farmer, 32, 33 years old, hardworking fellow, very hardworking. He has about 2.5 hectares of land, and through agriculture, he was able to, in effect, move himself into middle class in a matter of months. Samaila was able to, on his 2.5 hectares of land, planting maize, he was able to produce enough income to buy this car in one season. Not only was he able to buy the car, the last profit payment that we made to him, we asked him, he was so excited. We asked him what is he going to do with it. And to show you how middle class he is now, he said, I'm going to go on a vacation. he said, I'm going to go to Kano, I'm going to rest, I'm going to eat some good food. I said, you're taking your family, right? He said, no. So why agriculture is so exciting in Nigeria? First, land. 84 million hectares of arable land. Second, water. Nigeria has 3 of the 8 major river systems in Africa. 279 billion cubic meters of surface water. 21% of all the surface water in West Africa. And finally, markets. And this is actually why I think Nigeria will be the Brazil of Africa. Because you can have all the land, you can have all the water, but if you don't have the internal markets, you are unable to develop the economies of scale internally to become a dominant powerhouse. Example, Brazil. Brazil wasn't a major exporter of agricultural produce in 1985, not even 1990. But in the 90s, they became a dominant powerhouse on the world scale of agriculture. Why? Because they built up strong economies of scale with a large internal market and very easily able to dominate global trade. Beef is a key example. Brazil dominated the global trade of beef by increasing their domestic production by 5% because they had such a large, dominant internal market. So what I'm going to talk about is I'm going to look at these 3 things: land, markets, and water, and highlight what the key trends that we can expect in Nigerian agriculture over the next 20 years and that impact that will have on management education. Starting with land. The key trend with land is we're going to see a shrinking average size in farm size. Now, most people would look at that and say that's a bad thing. I like the iPod. I like things when they get small. First off, why is that? Well, if we think about it, we have 84 million hectares of arable land. Sounds like a lot, right? We have 160 million people. Per capita, that's half a hectare per person. Now, it's not really fair to take everybody because last I checked, many of you around the room probably don't have a phone. So let's take the rural inhabitants. So if we take per hectare of rural inhabitants in Nigeria, we plotted that from 1960 to 2030. We moved from north of 2 hectares per person to today, we're about 1 hectare per rural inhabitant in Nigeria. As we look at the projected trends in population and urbanization and so on and so forth, we project that that will go to 20, will drop down to about 0.6 hectares per person in rural. Now, if you throw on top of that some other factors, I talked about urbanization. But the green line assumes that urbanization will continue at the trends that we have seen. The reality, though, is I feel that urbanization will actually slow in Nigeria from a percentage standpoint. Why? Because people need to have a reason to migrate. People migrated to the urban areas in Western Europe and so on and so forth with industrialization, and they had jobs. And finally, people think that land is always going to be there. From 1985 to 2000, 15 years, the world lost 15% of its arable land. Gone forever. Why? Urbanization. As the world urbanizes, we actually take up more agricultural land. Salinization, desertification, erosion. So if we take Nigeria, for example, we don't recognize it. We actually have a massive desertification challenge here in Nigeria today. If you look at a satellite map of Nigeria, it's one of the few places in the world where north is greener than south. Niger has recognized that problem of desertification, and over the last 10 years has planted 15 million trees along the border of Nigeria. Special types of trees that basically are unique in the sense that they shed their leaves in the rainy season and put on their leaves in the dry season, which help to stimulate and minimize desertification. But Nigeria, south of the border, is actually less green. And it's a challenge that's getting worse and worse every year. Now, the reality is that our poor farmers are not small. Being smaller is not actually a bad thing. So let's take a look at this gentleman. I took this video last year. Apologies, it was a little shaky. I was on the back of the motorcycle. And this is your average everyday smallholder farmer. Toiling hard on his farm, so 1 hectare, 2 hectares worth of land. Now, he's now going to go out and try to access inputs to plant on that piece of land. And he's going to have to walk or ride his motorcycle or bicycle 20, 30 kilometers to buy those inputs. He's going to buy them from somebody who bought them from somebody who bought them from somebody. Then, he's not going to have enough money to buy all the inputs that he needs. Because no matter what you do, it takes $500 per hectare to grow maize best practice in Nigeria. And a farmer that, like this gentleman, that maybe makes, if he's lucky, $300 a year, and where is he going to get $500 to buy the inputs that he needs? So he's going to buy less inputs that he needs, lower quality inputs, and not be able to get the quantity he needs to sustain the inputs prices. Then he's going to put all of that in the ground, he's going to grow it, and he's going to get a yield that is subpar by any measure across the world. And he's going to take his meager harvest and he's going to go out, he's going to try and sell it. And he's in a very weak position at the output markets, and he's going to get a low price. So quite frankly, this poor fellow is squeezed on both ends, and that's why he's trapped in poverty. Now the reality though is that he is not unlike every other farmer practically everywhere else in the world. If we had the benefit of going back in time 100 years and to meet a farmer in, say, the United States, in 1910, 1913, we could actually go back and meet my grandfather. He was a farmer there at the time. And he was very poor. And he was poor just like all the other farmers. But what happened between 1910 and 1930 was a revolution in farmer organizations. Groups that were able to bring economies of scale to these farmers. Because at the end of the day, we're in business school, right? So if a business has low economies of scale, can it grow? No. So what happened was they developed systems that brought effectively and cost competitively economies of scale to poor farmers, enabling those poor farmers to dramatically increase their yields, their productivity, and become profitable. Example, this, you probably can't see it very well, this is the smallholder farmer's field. This field generated up to 4.6 tons of maize per hectare last season. Across the street is another smallholder farmer's field, generates about 0.8 tons per hectare. 5 to 6-fold increase in productivity, dramatically increasing their incomes. This gentleman on top was able to make net of his loan that was provided to him $1,450. Net of his loan. The World Bank defines a country from low income to low medium income as $1,000. He is now technically, by their definition, in the middle class. So what does this mean for management education? Well, it means that we have to think about preparing that next generation of management folks to develop systems that can prepare farmers and organizations similar to this. Organizations that can train leaders to provide the economies of scale to farmers. Key thing, tangible examples here. With an agribusiness management program, we don't want to train traders. We want to train people who will go out and manage warehouse receipts programs with thousands of farmers efficiently and effectively and make those business. We want to train folks that can go out and deliver $500 in credit to an individual farmer and do that 10,000 times, do it effectively and efficiently. Now the second trend, trends in markets. The trends in markets that we're going to see domestically is food for the emerging middle class. Now I'm sure like many of you, I've been to about 10 weddings in the last 2 weeks. And 90% of the time, when you go to a wedding, and the reason this is important is because if you want to project what people eat when they have more money, look at what they eat at weddings. So 90% of the time when I went to weddings, I ate rice and chicken. So the future of Nigeria, from a food standpoint, is rice and chicken. So what does that mean for agribusiness? Well, as you know, the federal government is driving a massive initiative around rice. Thankfully, they're looking to put in certain protections similar to what they've done in the poultry sector that has enabled the poultry sector to be the dominant agro industry in Nigeria. First Bank just sponsored the Poultry Association in Nigeria to have their annual conference. He's a businessman. He's not doing that because he's holding the money. He sees the potential. And so if we look at rice, what are the implications for management education for a growing and thriving rice industry? Well, we've got to move irrigation. So what does it take? How do we prepare that next generation of agribusiness leaders that will develop, finance, operate, and manage massive irrigation schemes that will enable thousands of smallholder farmers to become profitable and productive? We don't have to look very far to see this work. We just go to Mali. In Mali today, there's a 70,000 hectare irrigation project off this Tunisia with thousands of smallholder farmers today getting yields up to 14 metric tons per hectare over 2 cycles of rice. Now, if we look at the other key factors here, if you look at a major rice processing plant, world-scale rice processing plant in Nigeria today, globally would probably be somewhere around 70,000 metric tons. That translates into pulling rice from approximately 20,000 hectares of land, about 10,000 to 15,000 farmers. Now, with chicken, in Nigeria today, we consume somewhere around 1.6 kilograms per person per year of chicken. South Africa consumes 36 kilograms per person per year. So let's think about if Nigeria let's say we move from 1.6 to 3 kilograms per person per year. Now we're about 10% of South Africa. What that translates into is having leaders, business people, that can aggregate an additional 3 million metric tons of maize and manage those complex supply chains to be able to deliver quality at the right price. Now, final trend is water. So with water, we're going to see increased rainfall variability due to climate change. Climate change is real. Now the unfortunate thing about climate change, in reality, us in this room, we didn't really cause climate change. But unfortunately, we are going to bear the brunt of climate change. Now finally, I think we all want to take a step back and say to why we must change. We, as an organization, committed to creating 10 million jobs in the next 10 years through innovative businesses such as the business they talked about earlier, Abangona, where we've created an agricultural franchise that goes out and in a business manner enables small farmers to be profitable and productive while we make money at the same time. But my challenge to the program is that there's still a gap of 17 million jobs that need to be created. And creating innovative platforms and innovative businesses that unlock millions of jobs, frankly, should be all our responsibility. Thank you again for this opportunity.
the need for an agribusiness management program is the packages, okay, from the presentation. It is not so much the need for it, which is obvious, but why it has taken us this long, okay, to come up with such a program for an industry that is so critical to the development of our country. So let me start by calling on Dr. Howard, okay, to make his presentation for 5 minutes.
Thank you very much. I'm actually very excited that Lagos Business School is joining others to pay some attention to agribusiness as a unique sector in the business world. Agriculture, when people hear agriculture in most places, they think mainly of farming. But many businessmen will tell you agriculture is not just farming. So agriculture is big business. Transporting is a huge sector in agriculture, and this is something that most of us take for granted. There are aspects of agricultural food processing, agricultural input supply system is a huge sector in itself. So as we are thinking agriculture in this forum, we need to think more widely and more broadly into all the specific activities that is called agriculture, as well as the services that support agriculture. I say we have so much potential, which we have taken for granted, and Kolamasha pointed out why we took it for granted. Because we have the money to buy anything we want to buy, so we thought we could continue to buy, and that's really a big problem. And economists will tell you that if you have the strength to buy, then you could dictate actually how the market is run. We are not even doing that, and to me that's a leadership problem. If I am the largest buyer of rice in the world, then I should be the one dictating what happens in the rice market in the world. We as a country are not doing that, and I think as we develop leaders for the agricultural sector, this is the kind of message we need to start passing. That even if all you want to do is buy everything you need, buy wisely. Of course, you cannot do good businesses where security, either perceived or real, is a problem. Then the issue of a huge population, which then translates to a huge local market within the country. As the movie industry has shown us, having built a huge market within the country, the opportunities to explore the rest of the world is huge for us as a nation. And I think as we are developing the leaders for agriculture in the future, agribusinesses in the future, we need to think more of, okay, how do we engage our continent, Africa, and the rest of the world? Now, one issue in this respect is communication within the continent of Africa. If you are trying to go from here to, say, Burkina Faso, you would spend longer hours than you will do to move from here to London. That is something that as a regional hub and as a powerhouse in the region, we need to address. We need to be able to travel by road, by rail, by air easily with our neighbors. I will make some reference to the issue of management education for the agribusiness sector. Practice is very important. Students undergoing training in agribusinesses need practical, hands-on training, not necessarily from professors in their classes, but from practitioners who are actually doing the business. No amount of classroom teaching could tell you that it is more difficult to go from Lagos to Burkina Faso than it is to go from Lagos to London, until you actually try to travel to Burkina Faso and you see the challenges of doing that. One experience that we had recently in the cassava project was Nigeria is more advanced than all the other countries in Africa when we talk about cassava development. We have in Nigeria currently developed by Nigerian expertise what is known as flash dryers, which is a smaller version of the huge flash dryers of Germany. This equipment can quickly dry cassava to such a quality that can be used for all the products that the federal government has been pushing. We had the Kava project in 5 countries. And one of the first countries to say, look, we want to go a step further and get the flash dryer from Nigeria was Malawi. That should be straightforward. Get the engineer to make the flash dryer, get it in the water, take it to Malawi. But our flash dryer spent 3 months at the Apapa port because the customs people cannot believe that Nigeria can export equipment to any other country. As far as they are concerned, these guys must be playing some trick. Maybe something else there. They couldn't see that it is feasible. So it took us 7 months to move from Nigeria to Malawi, a single piece of equipment. Now, this is something that I think happened because that was the first time it's taking place. But more of this need to take place if our agricultural sector needs to develop. Finally, smallholder farmers can contribute raw materials to a growing agricultural sector in the continent, and we need the right kind of leaders to organize them to make this happen. The point we need to be careful of is how small can you be to even get the title of a smallholder farmer. I have worked a very long time with smallholder farmers, and some have as small as 0.2 of an hectare, and we call them smallholder farmer. If you are operating at that level of farming, profit orientation becomes secondary to some other factors. If you get to 1 to 2 hectares of land, you begin to think more of profit, because if you harvest your 4 tons of maize from 1 hectare of land, you don't want to use everything for the tuwo you want to eat over the next 3 months, so you want to sell it. But if all you produce is just 200 kilograms of maize, it's either you sell it to the highest bidder at the immediate time, or you actually use the whole thing for your domestic uses.
There are a number of points that I think need some elaboration so that we can put that in perspective as we discuss this subject. That is a fundamental difference between farming and agribusiness. Farming involving primary production, agribusiness, all the activities, businesses related to it in terms of inputs, supplies, and after it in terms of post-harvest handling, processing, distribution, transportation. So you can get involved in agricultural value chain, not necessarily being a farmer, but your activities, whether in the processing or transportation or input supply, are critical to the success of the farming operation. So we're talking about agribusiness, we're talking about all businesses that relate to farming and that transcend farming from the time the product comes to out of the farm to when it gets to the table or to our market, to the port. So it is important to understand that. Now, are they related? Yes. Which one comes first? What? Agribusiness itself, if it's properly developed, can drive the farming activity. Because ultimately, it provides an outlet for outputs of the farming business. And deriving from the point that Kola made, unless attention is paid to the market, unless attention is paid to the market, and we produce to what the market needs and what the market wants in the way it wants it, and at the price the market wants it, our primary venture is not likely to be a success. So it is important that market is key, and all the agribusiness activities get into providing ultimate markets in a sense for the output of the farm. Finally, in African business schools, their primary role is to train business managers and leaders. To the extent that we are seeing agriculture as a business, or we should see agriculture as a business, to that extent that what they do are relevant. They do not pretend to want to come and train farmers, but we certainly are committed to training people who will run agribusinesses like businesses.
Agriculture, we have this mentality that ours is an agrarian society. And so you can scratch the soil and place some stone in it, and in a few weeks you can harvest crops. You can also draft your wife and children to farm and forget about labor costs, and nothing will happen. And when eventually you harvest those crops, you can distribute them to your in-laws and your uncles to maintain relationships. Well, it has served our purpose actually in the traditional setting, but in the growing and increasingly globalized and competitive world we have, that has no relevance. It can't get us anywhere. Most of the nation states that have made it to success have made it by taking agriculture seriously. At the elementary stage, where you are in the primary extractive phase of nation building, agriculture can play a role. It helps you to lay the foundation, the groundwork, enables you to now begin to establish basic industries to heavy industries, and then you mature to the service sectors, and then on, you see a developed economy. But in our own case, we have not taken advantage of agriculture to build those foundations that will enable us to now evolve, and suddenly we have a mature economy that is service-driven without fundamentals. This perspective has actually made people think that agriculture is an all-commerce thing, so nobody sees it as a science it is, and as a business that it should be. Based on my experience in looking at agricultural propositions that we see from time to time as an agricultural credit officer, entrepreneurs who venture into the agricultural space tend to take on roles that are beyond their competence. And so you find an investor who is primarily interested in primary production, is also looking to processing, at the same time going to gravitate into being a guru in marketing and everything. And that's because the sector, the value chain is not organized and there is no specialization. People do not approach business from a point of view of competence and strategic capacity. We also find in our space a lot of poor planning capacity and business presentation skills. Enterprise selection capacity is poor here. People tend to follow the news, what is in the book. And that's why we have, when it is pure water, everybody is doing pure water. When it is stock market that is booming, everybody is playing in the stock market. And up until 2006, poultry was a rave. Everybody wanted to be a poultry farmer. And suddenly, the bird flu came and doused the fire. And those who don't have real stake in it also chickened out. Do we have to get involved in these ebbs and flows of rush in and rush out without having the staying power? All of that is happening because people who are coming into this space are just listening to stories, very fanciful stories about how you can make good money, and there is no denying the fact you can make good money from these enterprises. No denying the fact. And yet we find people jumping into investments without proper understanding of where to even find the inputs. What are the challenges? What are the cycles? How much can the market pay for this commodity? Can I produce competitively to match what market expects? And should I even be in primary production? So I think, again, business training for financiers could be beneficial to help them unlock the opportunities in the agricultural value chain, take advantage of whatever incentives are in place by government, and then draw from their own knowledge of their operating systems and risk management strategies so as to make access to financing much more easier. So there is so much to gain by, as a result of this innovation that has come to us, this agricultural business management program. And the context created by the keynote speaker as to why we should take agriculture very seriously, and the current realities about what we are doing in terms of presenting propositions and making decisions, investment decisions in agriculture, help us for this development that has come at this time.
In the entire agribusiness, funding is important, therefore those who provide the funds are important. All of us within the agribusiness need to go back to school. You cannot use silk to patch tarpaulin.
Excellent.
What's happened is that the agricultural industry in Nigeria stopped growing in 1960. The banking institutions have gathered all the best brains in Nigeria and have made all the best money in the world. Banks have a project, and their project is, I must double my balance sheet every year, regardless of who suffers. Therefore, please do not bring into this agribusiness management education this mentality that some people are good at it, others have to learn from them. The bankers are just as bad as the rest of us.
I like the idea of this agribusiness, but I want to subscribe to the fact that the orientation needs to be changed. And I subscribe to the fact that today we should leave the theoretical level to the practical level. Today we have a lot of agri graduates and doctorate holders in agri. How many of them are into agricultural business? 2, if you have 100 graduates and all of them are looking for jobs, and the other people that have said, okay, because there's no job, let me go back to agri. The impression is so bad that even your own parents will ask you, what have you come back to do? And lastly, the pricing is key in agriculture. Agri products are so cheap that it will take a longer time to break even. So I think there should be a board that determines the price so that the farmers are not cheated. Fix the price for the person that is coming between so that everybody is profitable.
So much has been said about financing and other aspects of agriculture. I didn't hear much about regulation. The agribusiness, from the aspect of land use in agriculture to access to financing in agriculture.
The contribution I really want to make and the point I want to bring home here today is that when you talk about wanting agriculture to be a business, yes, it's very desirable, and in fact, it's what we should be thinking. But the biggest impediment, really, for that to happen in Nigeria is our own government. In terms of all of the activities of government, in any attempts to do anything here, you have issues such as double taxation. You have all kinds of offices that come to you. There are regulatory bodies of all kinds of names and acronyms. They come in. You have all sorts of difficult environment to produce and work in. And the people in government come in all kinds of names of ministries. Nesria, Soncap, MIS, NAFDAC, this, that. I mean, you could start in a department in your place just answering the call of government people, coming to ask all kinds of irrelevant, wasteful questions. And the number one thing we must do to get our own act together and get out of our own way is to organize. The people that are going to come to companies and industries, organize the way the government is interacting with these agribusinesses we want to become businesses.
Like my brother said, there are lots of unfriendly environments around agriculturists. For one to be into any form of agriculture, you must have a passion for that field. You don't just go into it because, oh, this is what is raining. And for you to find time to do it, agriculture takes money, it's very expensive. So if you are going in for a loan, you have to really work it out, the length of time you'll be able to produce to pay back. And because of fear of paying back, a lot of us cannot go into loan taking. And then the environment is not really friendly, like I said. The roads are bad, you can't transport your wares to the market. The electricity is not there. Take for example, in Delta State, I am the chairperson of the Moringa Development Association. A lot of my members are planting moringa and they want markets to sell. Then NAFDAC is talking about number. Some of us are packaging illegally, like myself. I haven't gotten the NAFDAC number because I've been there several times. They tell me I should construct a cottage industry. They will come and see what I am doing before they can inspect. And each product costs so much money. By the time you get that money, you are discouraged. But I have the passion to do this work because a lot of persons are benefiting from my products. So I find it sometimes fighting against the odds, but it cannot continue. So if you are going to take up this agribusiness management courses, you must also have a demonstration farm. You cannot teach agriculture in the classroom. It's not theory. You must practicalize it for people to see exactly what you're talking about. So if you can work out something with the government, and then let there be a backing, have a demonstration farm, and then let them try and remove some of these constraints, more people will go into agriculture. Because when we do that, we have more than enough food to eat, and even room for export.
Just wanted to add my support, if I may, to Kola Masha and his Babanguna project. Having had the honour to visit it outside Kaduna, I think it's extremely refreshing. Somebody that loves Nigeria, to see a project which is both commercial and one that benefits so many local people in such a positive way. So when I buy my rams for gifts, I buy them from there because they're 10 times as fatty and weighty that have come from Niger. Indeed, sir. Indeed, succulent. And I think it's a fantastic project and a fantastic example. And coming from somebody who's not flying in his PJ and he's not sort of developing in that way, but is doing something really for the good of the people. So thank you very much indeed.
In as much as you have highlighted the pains you have witnessed with the financial sector, you also agree with me that out of every 12 disciples, there are also some also one Judas. You know Nigerian character. There are many people who have, under the disguise of agribusiness, collected loans, and they have actually made banks feel bad about the sector. We must put in place a legal structure that will deal with loan defaulters. If banks will continue to risk their funds and their characters outside there, and I want to play games, I'm not sure banks will be impressed.
You know, in the world, we tend to have a very short memory. We forget that in the 1950s, the United States was the most protectionist government in history. And that enabled their industries to develop and grow. And then once they became very strong and large, then they became very big proponents of free trade, because now you can beat everybody. So take rice, for example. The rice that we eat in Nigeria, and there's something that perplexed me all the time. If you travel all over the world, you will struggle to find parboiled rice. But in Nigeria, 99.9% of all the rice we eat is parboiled. And people kept telling me, no, Nigerians like the taste and so on and so on and so forth. But the reality is actually, the reason why Nigerians eat parboiled rice is because the rice that is imported into Nigeria is coming out of the strategic grain reserves of these countries, India, Thailand, so on and so forth, and has sat there for 10 years, sometimes 15 years. And if you take 15-year-old rice and you put it through a rice mill, it's going to break. So you have to parboil it to moisten it before you can mill it. And so this rice that is coming, that's been sitting in stores for 10, 15 years, how is a young farmer in Nigeria going to compete with that? So these are some examples of ways in which I think we need to take smart decisions to protect local industries and enable them to grow.
The agribusiness school, okay, is offering agri-management program. It is not offering agricultural training program. It's not going to teach you how to farm. That's not its role. It is teaching you how to manage agribusiness. Secondly, with all the issues that have been raised, okay, about the problems and challenges in the agricultural sector, it further justifies the need for agri-management program. Because when you have challenges, management now assumes a premium, okay? Because business is to enable you manage within available resources, okay, to achieve goals. As Mr. Ihedibo said, we cannot solve all Nigeria's problems, okay? And there are cases or examples of people who have succeeded in spite of the problems. So what we try to do is to give you the skill to manage and succeed within the context of the environment that you operate in. That is really what management is all about. Now, of course, success entails a whole lot of things. Okay, from strategy, what business you do with your strategy, your human resource, everything. Okay, and regulation is very critical in the agricultural sector of business, precisely because agriculture is one industry that straddles so many other industries: health, transportation, okay, energy. We know that government has somehow to regulate. However, what this program, when it explained, will also teach you is how to deal with government. Okay? How do you deal with government? How do you develop and manage advocacies? Okay? Every industry that has had regulation has had to have a way of dealing with it and managing it. It's a reality. Okay? It's just like tax. Tax is a reality, but you have to learn to manage your business with tax. So these are issues that are important and need to be managed, and that is why this kind of program is useful. Finally, on the issue of finance, okay, on the issue of finance, nobody says our bankers have performed fantastically. There's always room for improvement, okay? However, it is important also to realize that unless we manage our businesses properly, forget agribusiness, any business at all, if you don't manage it properly, you will not have access to capital. It's simple. Okay? So, within the constraints that you operate here, you have room to either position yourself where you will operate more profitably, as this gentleman has done, and therefore continue to have access to finance, or not. And part of the training program here is to help you make that decision. So really, I think we all have justified the need for this program. And therefore, I will bring this session to a close, and then we'll launch the program proper.
All over sub-Saharan Africa, up to 70% of the population is directly or indirectly involved in agriculture and across the agricultural value chain. It still contributes up to 30% of GDP. We looked at the dynamics of Africa and the future growth. You find that Africa is growing and continues to grow. Its population is young, I think, as we've realized from what some of the speakers said today. So you need jobs, you also need food. So there's a huge demand and a growing demand for food. The more people you have, the more they need to eat. And so there were so many things that pointed to, okay, this sector is most relevant for business schools to think about what they can do. So that was the starting point, in a way. And so we defined our objective of the consortium as providing high quality business management and leadership education. So the consortium was designed to focus on two things. It was to focus on course development and delivery, but also to focus on building a network, understanding that management training will be just one component of a very complex sector. So how can you bring the different stakeholders together, and how can you really serve as a platform for advocacy, for raising funds, and for supporting the needs of the sector? We started, and I think once again, talking about where is the need for management education, we started with a needs assessment. We did a very comprehensive needs assessment across sub-Saharan Africa. Our objective was to understand, start from the point of talking to the players on the field, from project managers to farmer cooperatives to financial institutions to lobby groups to government workers. What does the scope of the landscape look like? Where are the needs? And then what we found was that in Africa, you've had for years, actually, agriculture is nothing new in Africa. As we said, it's still it's the major form of livelihood. But you've had a lot of focus on the technical side of agriculture. So when it comes to agroeconomists, food scientists, crop this, when it comes to technical expertise in Africa, you don't lack expertise. There's a huge supply of technical agricultural trained professionals. or workers. But what we found was that that is part of where the focus has traditionally been, on agriculture, on productivity. How can you increase the yield? And then we forget about what happens after the farmer has the produce, what happens after the farm gate. It's critically important for that value addition, for the incomes that we are seeking to realize and increase. And so we realized that looking at the entire value chain was where the opportunities lay and where the problems actually were, where everybody focuses on their area of the chain, and there's very little big picture analysis and value chain collaboration and strengthening those linkages across the value chain. And so, and as you continue to do that, and as you try and transform the farm to an enterprise, and you try and look at the farm to fork, then we realized that there was a huge gap of the necessary skills needed to actually leverage those opportunities across the sector. There were not enough people who understood how to build agribusiness enterprises. Let's say if you're adding processing units, manufacturing units, there were not enough people who understood large-scale projects that you need to have large incomes. Based on the needs that we found, we've gone through a very intensive process of curriculum development, which has involved working with industry. So building that vital connection between academia and industry. So working with practitioners, working with field experts, trying to develop a curriculum that's relevant and very practically based. We've also focused a lot on the faculty. So if we are saying that we are introducing a new innovative model for training programs, then we do also need to equip the faculty with the kind of tools and approaches, in a way retooling academic faculty and business faculty to be able to deliver the content that we are developing. And so I'm now going to bring the focus on the Agribusiness Management Program, which we are calling the AgMP. And so there are 3 pillars on this program. Based on our needs and our solution, on our journey to date, what we found was that what we needed to do was something different. What the sector desperately needed was to open a new chapter in its development. We are talking about agribusiness, an agribusiness landscape which is largely untapped, largely unexploited, and this is an opportunity that we want to be able to help unlock. And so that means that we must turn to a new page, and so it means we must do things differently. We must deliver education differently, we must deliver different content, and we must work with different actors to enable that happen. And so we focused on innovation. So this is an innovative program. This is stimulating. This is very innovative. We focused on action learning. So you can actually really only learn management by doing. That's the only way you can learn it, and that's what the program is focusing on. And we also focused on the fact that business school faculty and academic faculty have lots of expertise and knowledge in some of the theoretical underpinnings and tools, management tools that we talk about. That complements the practical, hands-on experience that experts in the industry have. And so how can you bring these two together to collaborate and give a very powerful offering for the learner, where you are given the tools and the knowledge, and then you are given insights into how it applies. And bringing that connection between academia and industry, we felt that not only helps a continuous cycle for being able to understand the needs of the industry and develop educational solutions to meet those needs, but also gives maximum benefit to all the stakeholders involved. And so in a way, that's how we thought about it. Innovation, learning by doing, and who matters in terms of delivering this program. And so this is how the AgMP looks like. So we basically, because we said that we want to hinge this program on action learning, it means that it's not going to be a program where, oh, I'm coming for a short course, I just come for a 2-week, I spend 2 weeks in Lagos Business School, classes day in, day out, and then when I finish, I get a certificate. No, what we felt was that if you actually want to teach learning by doing, if we want to learn by doing, we actually have to practice that through the program. And so that informed us to make the program modular. It's a 6-month program, and that was also informed by how long should the program be, was some of the surveys and the needs assessment that we did in terms of what people in the sector were telling us they wanted. So we spread it over 6 months. It's in 3 modular blocks, where each module block, so you have one module, you have 5 days every 2 months where you come into class, and we go through some of the different modules under it. In between that, so in between the first modular block, you start the action learning projects. You come back, you build on you get some additional tools, and then you continue that. So the structure of the program is that it's modular, it's over 6 months, and it's a total of 15 contact days. So that's 15 days when all of us are in the classroom like this. It's hinged on the action learning project. So what we are doing is that every participant in the program will be involved and participate in an action learning project, where action learning means that it's actually real world projects where we are going to get into partnerships with different industries, organizations in the sector. The way it's been structured is that we've structured the content to build on, and so that it's a cumulative learning process. So if, let's say, I'm starting with introduction to the agribusiness value chain in module block 1, it's giving me that whole picture, a very comprehensive understanding of what this value chain actually looks like, what are the different stages and processes involved. I'm also starting from myself, where to actually say that if we're developing managers and leaders, it starts from your personal transformation and understanding of yours and your goal setting. I'm also starting with an understanding of what is structure of that project, what the structure, expectations, guidelines and outcomes need to be of my project that I'm working with. And so you take that, you work on, let's say, a proposal like Colette. You join your group members at this stage and start working on, okay, how we'll actually apply that. And then let's say if you continue into the modular block 2, and where you're looking at things like market dynamics, supply chain and logistics, financial skills. So once again, the content here is being applied to what you can do on your project. So if I've actually understood, we talked a lot about, let's say there are so many opportunities and people don't understand how to actually assess opportunities. One of the speakers mentioned earlier that we just jump on every bandwagon, if it's pure water today, if it's this to that. But then how do you actually take a tool? There are opportunity assessment tools where you look at different things, where you understand how to do a competitive analysis of your landscape, understand how to assess opportunities and be able to identify and decide whether it's a viable opportunity. How do you actually do that? You take that tool and apply it to the project that you are doing. And so you'll be doing a market opportunity assessment for the project that you're working on. So that is the project. It's a very innovative, new way we think. This is the only way we feel that you can actually build skills and teach management for the agribusiness sector. And so I've said a lot about this, and then I guess the first question that should come to mind is that who then is in the classroom? So which participants are actually partaking in this? And this was a discussion that we started. So in bringing these key actors, these key managers that have decision-making power, that are leading projects with huge impact, then you have that indirect impact and scale that you actually want to achieve. So when these people are coming in and applying what they are learning to their organizations, in those 2 months break we have in the structure, you can actually be able to say that through this training, you are changing the course of operations of how some of these things run. You're actually training people who have the power to go out and implement and start to create that transformation and change that the sector so desperately needs. And so that's why our focus is management education. We do that best with managers, but then the key thing was thinking about how can you achieve the impact and the change that we so desperately need in a way in the shortest possible time, but also to be able to get results. And so we're thinking about the benefits of the program for then this class that we've defined. I think one of the key things you need actually to be able to do something, to put our money where our mouth is to be able to have the actual tools. So can we equip these managers with the tools that are needed? Can we give the importance exposure that is missing? Given that we've all been operating in our sectors too, understanding the trends, that to even do a market opportunity assessment, you need to have an understanding of what is possible and where the sector is actually going. And so our approach, we are taxing ourselves to be very results oriented because that's what we are demanding from participants in the program. And so some of the sample things we look at is that when you take the program structure and the modules that I've just shown you, is that how is what we propose to do actually going to give us results? And so if you look at some of the content, we feel that some of these modules will be able to give you skills in analysis. So can you understand the linkages? Can you understand the axis? Do you actually know how to analyze factors? How to actually put a market assessment together and what this means, how you actually make decisions around that. And so you learn the powerful tool of analysis and critical thinking. that informs your problem analysis, that informs your decision-making capabilities. Then you apply this knowledge into tools. And so we develop strategies, you develop planning tools, you develop accounting practices for that farmer organization and the financial tools that they'll actually use and make this practice. And then when you've been able to do it, and the application goes a lot through what you do in the classroom, but also through your action learning projects. And then that results, when you add the analysis and application that you do through the program, we think this is a lifetime journey. It doesn't stop at the end of the 6 months, but it continues into how is this changing then the impact that that project manager had set for his project. How is it helping them achieve their target indicators? Are they going to exceed, or are they going to change some of the things that they are doing? How is it resulting in new opportunities? That entrepreneur that starts in the classroom can now understand how to grow their business and expand into a different value chain or different sector. And so I think what we feel that the pillars of success for this program is in Lagos Business School and across our different schools we'll roll it out in, is having a different value proposition. So this is different. This is something the sector has never seen before. This is something that business schools, academic institutions, universities across sub-Saharan Africa, and I can say that emphatically because we did our research very comprehensively, and this has never been introduced in Africa. And now is the time for us to take up that challenge. Of course, starting something like this is never easy. So as I said earlier, we also have to focus on equipping the faculty and the schools to be able to deliver this value proposition. But we feel that an action learning oriented, focused program that roots itself into the context, into what's important for agriculture and agribusiness in each country, is important. And that's the pillar in a way of the program that we are proposing. End here in a way, and to, I guess, move it to our final call of the day to actually launch the program. But we hope to have world-class agribusiness management programs. We are pushing ourselves to a very high standard by working with global partners to do this. So since we are now stepping into the game, someone mentioned that it's so exciting that you don't have to go to the Netherlands or go to Wageningen or one of these universities, but this has come home. And so in bringing it home, we are also learning from the best around the world. And so we are working with the International Food and Agribusiness Management Association. We're working with Harvard Business School. And we are working with different actors. And the Center for Technical Cooperation of the European Union, who's also bringing expertise from Europe to support this. But we are working with the best around the world to define best practices, submit our curriculum and our programs to external international review and standards, and continually build that value proposition where we are actually getting world-class programs that are contextually relevant and rooted in the needs of Africa. And so we hope to continue to see this. We hope that maybe in 5 years, this is actually an alumni gathering of people who passed through the program, and we are discussing great results and great things that have happened as a result of I met person A on this program, and we decided to work on this together, and this is the result. And so I'll end here.
Ladies and gentlemen, with your permission and the permission of everybody here, I'd like you to join me. Let's stand together.
Thank you very much. So the program is officially launched.
At this juncture, I want to say on behalf of the Lagos Business School, ABS and AAC, I want to thank our panelists and our keynote speaker for coming today. They've taken out of their time to share their experiences with us and also to help us understand that what we're doing is not in vain. We're not doing it because we're a business school, but we're doing it because there's a true need in this environment and in Africa. And we hope that with this program, we can begin to lead that change and make a difference in our communities. But while we're here, I want to say thank you to all of them, and I want you to help me and express that deep thanks and our deep gratitude to them for spending their time and the day with us. So on behalf of my Dean, Dr. Enese Okonedo, who is unavoidably absent today, I want to thank each and every one for coming, and I want to say that this is a token of Lagos Business School. It's not brown envelope. But it's something to help us remember this day by, because whether we like it or not, we're setting a new direction in Africa and in the history of how we emerge. When this program is talked about in another 2-3 years, you can say, oh, I was part of it. And that's the knowledge and the experience we should all take away from here. Thank you very much to Dr. Funcha, Lagos State representative. Thank you very much, Mr. Kolamasha from Dorio Partners, and we will go to Kaduna one of these days. Thank you very much, Mr. Ihedibo. Thank you very much. And last but not the least, Dr. Kola Adebayo. Thank you all very much. Larry doesn't get a prize. He's doing his work. All right. Thank you all very much for coming. And thank you for staying the extra time. And we are truly excited. I'm particularly very excited because I've been managing this whole process for over a year now. And we've been breathing down each other's backs. And when the brochures were seized by Ghana Customs yesterday, and we were like, oh my God, what do we do? I'm missing my flight, and this and that. So we've been doing all that, and it happens everywhere. This is Africa. One thing Dinah and I have learned over the years is that Africa is the same. Okay? So we have a copy of the brochures outside for you. Each one has an application form and details for enrollment. We haven't put pricing information yet. That's not the objective. Okay? We'll talk about the pricing later, and for the non-governmental organizations, there will be some form of scholarships available. Thank you very much for coming. Enjoy the rest of your day.
The Agribusiness Management Program is a complementary product to LBS's existing brand of general management programs. It's intended to focus on the detailed issues in the agricultural industry, looking at the commercialization of agriculture without just taking it as a management dimension in itself. The nature of agriculture and the manner in which agriculture has taken off in Nigeria has always focused on production. However, with the issues of food security, with the issues of poverty, with the issues of youth unemployment, we realize that we need to be doing more than talking about production.
The vision behind the program is we want to build the capacity of African business schools to be able to develop and deliver agribusiness management programs for the sector. We found that this was a critical need. African agriculture has focused on the productivity side, the farm, and increasing the productivity, increasing yields. We've had a lot of technical education. But when you begin to transform agriculture into a business, into agribusiness, you need to look at the entire value chain, the different opportunities and value addition opportunities along the chain. And we found that there was a huge gap in business and management capacity to be able to leverage these opportunities. And so we realized that across the sector, what business schools could do and should be doing for African agriculture and African agribusiness is to train managers, to train actors along the value chain that will be able to have the right kinds of skills, different exposure, different understanding to be able to leverage these opportunities.
This program has come on at a very good time and is going to play a very, very vital role in revolutionizing agriculture in this country.
A program like what we discussed today really takes us a step in the right direction to enable us to develop and grow our agriculture sector. Because at the end of the day, who actually grows a sector? It's people. And to ensure that you have the people that are educated appropriately to enable the businesses within that sector to do things better, faster, and cheaper is critical to the success of the whole industry.
The future is enormous because it will bring the quality of the people to a higher level, to international standards, best practices. We are all here at home trying to do the best we can. But when you come in here, you see a different perspective. You see a lot of innovation.
It's a wonderful and novel idea by the Lagos Business School, and we all agree there is a gap both in financing, in education, and in the market in terms of agribusiness. And the basic anchor thing there is the education. And then with the Lagos Business School coming up with a program like this, I guess in the nearest future, the aspect that has to do with risk assessment of agribusiness will be a thing of the past.